This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. Hey, what's up and welcome to Hot Takes, the show where I look at you guys' comments that you leave under my videos during the week and then get the chance to react to them. I take less comments in this one than I do from like a Q&A so I can have more time with each comment because, you know, I'm kind of engaging in more of a conversation here. So appreciate you guys for dropping those comments on my videos. Let's jump into the first one. This comes from World War Z. The challenge of trading Myles or trading for Myles will be the competitive team. So it means late first round picks. So a first round pick when it's 25 is a lot different than a top 5 pick. Realistically, and again, why it makes a Myles trade so hard for me to fathom right now is the amount of maneuvering that would have to happen for a Myles trade to happen. Because you're right. The Browns aren't going to want picks in the 30s for Myles Garrett. They're not going to want 3 years of late first round picks for Myles Garrett. They're going to want good picks for Myles Garrett. So that probably means acquiring picks from other teams that the Browns are interested in getting if you're a contending team and you want to trade for Myles Garrett. And keep in mind, Myles has that no trade contact clause, so he can veto any trade that you throw out there. So you can't just, you can't just have like the Jets trade for Myles or something like that. He's probably not going to go for that. You have to have these trades make sense to the Browns. And in order to do that, you're going to need to have picks that aren't your own to make that up. So yeah, I think that's the biggest problem that a lot of teams, like if you're the Eagles, you're probably going to have to trade like A.J. Brown to get a bunch of other teams' first-round picks and then use those first-round picks to try to get Myles Garrett. It's going to be like basketball if you want to trade for Myles. Vince says this: the main reason Carnell Tate is pushing out the other two is the vast history of successful Ohio State wide receivers in the NFL. Well, that's helmet scouting. I don't think helmet scouting is a good idea. It's very possible that you could draft the Ohio State wide receiver and they not end up good. I mean, think about the earliest drafted one, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's an Ohio State wide receiver. He's not very good right now in the NFL. Now, you can make the argument that that's the Cardinals' fault or whatever it is, but it's not foolproof, obviously. If you could draft the best, not the best, the best one to come out the draft so far. If you could draft the one that was deemed the best prospect since Ohio State went on this wide receiver run, and that guy not work out for you, then the whole Ohio State wide receiver thing's not foolproof, right? So it's not like guaranteed, right? Like in Carnell Tate, you got to evaluate him not as Ohio State wide receiver, but you just got to evaluate him as a wide receiver and ask yourself, do you think that he is that much better than the other prospects there? And if he played for a different school, would you have him in the same spot? If he were an Alabama wide receiver, would we be talking about him at number 6? And not to say that there's not obvious benefits to going to Ohio State, the kind of coaching you receive. Obviously, they're doing something right there, but still got to evaluate the player more than you evaluate the school. If you want to do that in like pick 17, sure. But when you're doing that in the top 10, that's dangerous. You know what I mean? Helmet scouting is dangerous regardless of where you do it in the draft, but the earlier is usually the worst place to do it. Mark Main says this: here's a name you didn't mention, Jeremiyah Love in my mock draft. If he's there at 6, you have to consider him mainly for his receiving ability. I don't know where all this Jeremiyah Love stuff is coming from, but I'm going to be honest. This is the one thing, like this is the draft obsession that some people have that makes the least amount of sense to me. The Browns drafted 2 running backs last year. They feel really good about both of those running backs. So if you draft Jeremiyah Love, at best, you're basically kicking aside a 4th-round pick that you feel really good about and relegating him to a 3rd receiver. And then you're like saying that Jeremiyah Love would be there for his receiving back abilities. But it's like, that's what Dylan Sampson was drafted for. And I don't think Jeremiyah Love is that special that you could just like kick somebody aside that it doesn't make for you to kick aside, especially when you're a roster like the Cleveland Browns that they need players at positions. Like they need a wide receiver. They need an offensive tackle. To draft Jeremiyah Love would just be like luxury drafting when you don't have the luxury of drafting that. And keep in mind, like they're clearly shaping this around Quincy being a bell cow back. That's what they want him to be. So it's not like they're even envisioning him split and carry. It makes no sense. Like I get it if you like Jeremiyah Love and you want him to be on the Browns, but it don't make any sense. Like if you want to do a 2 running back system, you don't got to draft one at 6 while you're giving the bulk of the carries to the guy you drafted in the 2nd round. It makes no sense. I can't get behind it. I've heard the logic. I'm not convinced by the logic on that one. Max Al Dojo says, after listening to Coach Todd, he's saying the exact same things, Q. Is this a bluff? He's talking about Deshaun Watson, by the way. Is this a bluff to keep any trades they are working on to stay in place until it's time? Or is Todd flexing with this interview and early conversations once he's hired that he thinks he can be the Deshaun Watson whisper? There's your hot take. Oh, man. What makes me nervous about how they're talking about Deshaun is that, like, it makes me concerned that there's like this massive hubris about how you can fix Deshaun Watson, right? And look, this is something that's supported by popular opinion right now. If you look into the comment section of the video where I'm talking about Todd Monken and this stuff, people are saying stuff like, well, Kevin's offense could be just so terrible. I think there's a comment I'm going to go over that literally says that, where it's like Kevin's offense is so uniquely bad that Todd Monken can come in and fix it. This is pure hubris, right? And if you're going into the Deshaun Watson project thinking that like, oh, it didn't work out because you don't like the coach he had the last time, I think you're setting yourself up to be shocked when there's no reason anybody should be shocked by Deshaun Watson. So I certainly hope that this is not just hubris and Todd just thinking that he could fix Deshaun Watson because he's the best coach in the world. I hope that there is a functional structural reason for all of this, but we'll see. We'll see. Hey, let me talk to you about my sponsor for this year, PrizePicks. It's a fun way to win cash while you're watching your favorite teams. Forget complex betting rules. Their app is designed to be incredibly easy to use. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Speaking of, here are my picks for this upcoming NFL season. They have Myles Garrett at 14 sacks here. I think he will get more than 14 sacks. Joe Burrow at 3,875 passing yards. I think he'll be a 4,000-yard passer. I'm going to go with more. They have Derrick Henry at 1,224 yards. I'm going to go less than that. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You can follow me on the app at KWEN_C to see all of my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineups when you download the app using the link in the description. This one is from Abbas, who's commenting on my video about Todd Monken, saying that he hasn't watched any film of Deshaun Watson. He says here, to play devil's advocate, I think the implication might be that Stefanski's system was so bad that the tape was essentially useless. One, that's not the case. Stefanski's system wasn't great. I thought he should get fired, but it wasn't that bad. Like, we're over-exaggerating. Like, Kevin Stefanski is technically a more accomplished head coach than Todd Monken, right? Like, Kevin has won more games in the NFL. He's been to the playoffs more than Todd Monken has as a head coach at a younger age. To act like Kevin Stefanski was so bad that he was just like out here doing non-football, like basically that's what you have to believe, is that Kevin's offense was so bad it was completely useless, which is saying like he basically wasn't even asking him to play football. That's ridiculous, right? You can have your opinion about Kevin. You can want Kevin fired. It wasn't that, okay? Like, that's ridiculous. And think about the hubris there, right? Like, so you think Kevin's offense was so bad, his system was so bad, even though it's a fairly common system, right? The issue with Kevin wasn't that the system was dysfunctional. It was that the system was predictable, right? You're watching Deshaun not be able to run that system, and you think you're just going to walk in and fix it because your last name is not Stefanski, it's Monken. I don't know if that's a great mindset to have. I'm gonna be honest. The shit banged. Like, a lot of people agree with it, but not gonna sit here and act like that makes a ton of sense. Aaron, another comment from the same video, says, we're still 6 weeks away from being on the field with OTAs. I would guess that's when Monken focuses on the draft. Here's my issue with this excuse. If you're going to focus on the draft, you got to know what you want to do at quarterback. And if you want to know what you want to do at quarterback, you got to evaluate what you have on the roster already. That's the first thing a coach does when they take a job, is evaluate what's on the roster. Like, so you can make decisions about what you want to improve. It's like buying a house and not having anybody audit it. Yeah, how do you know what you're going to need for the house if you don't know what's wrong with the house that you're buying? Does that make sense to everybody? Right? Like, oh, I'm not gonna look at the house until I have the key. That makes no sense to me, right? Like, you want to do an inspection. You want to make sure that you don't have to replace the entire center part of the house because there's a termite infection or something like. There's no real excuse for him not to have watched the tape of Deshaun. I think we're at the point where we're in a honeymoon phase with Todd, and we want to be happy and excited about it. And there's still some stuff that I'm excited to see with Todd Monken. But if he's indicating that he's doing something that's not good, I think you still got to call it out, right? And him saying he's not watching tape of Deshaun, there's no way I could flip that into that's a good thing. The Big Mont says this, I take his comments as he's giving everybody a clean slate and he wants to see what everybody has at this point in time. I guess. I think part of giving people a clean slate is also understanding what they did before. Right? You should, just because you want to give people a clean slate doesn't mean that you have to be ignorant of what they have done and what they have struggled with before. I think part of giving somebody a clean slate is understanding what they have struggled with and putting them in a situation to be successful. And you have to watch them to do that. It doesn't make much sense to me. Again, the first thing you expect a head coach to do when they take the job is evaluate what's on the roster. That's the first thing every head coach does. Hell, Todd Monken was about to take the offensive coordinator job in New York, and he spent 3 weeks looking at tape on Jackson Dart. He understands this. So maybe this is some kind of intentional strategy with Deshaun. Maybe this is reflective of the fact that they're not taking him seriously. But if they do plan on giving Deshaun a real chance to start and they don't watch his tape, there's a lot of outcomes that can happen because of that are fairly predictable and fairly negative for the Cleveland Browns that I would like them to avoid because this is very avoidable. You could just simply watch the tape and ask people in the building what he was asked to do when he was in Cleveland. You can ask Deshaun what he was asked to do while he was in the building. But hey, we'll see how it works out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.